This is your favorite fake news anchor with the craziest hair. Real, all of it, I'm sad to say. Do not be fooled by my title. This is not a toupee, and I'm actually a millennial. I've been called a boomer before, but here, let me adjust this a little. Maybe, well, no. I want to talk about the rapist wit of the fake news as they sow discord and rebellion across the United States, as the fake news has always done here in the land of the free, the home of the brave. What do I mean by the fake news has a rapist wit? You want to check out the video called "The Party of Evil." The Party of Evil. This is what makes the fake news such a great ally of the Chi-Com Democratic Party, the communist fake news. Well, thanks to the fake news is actually obviously they're following America's man's man because I'm calling their bluff, and they don't like it when you tell the American people what's actually going on, because it messes up their exploit America, terrorize America game. So what are they doing now? The fake news is backpedaling. Just as a point of minor curiosity, by the way, the AP, well, they just happen to be just truthful enough, and this is actually, so we're seeing a trend across the fake news now because America's man's man has been calling them out. Because America's man's man, America's favorite former fake news anchor, is revealing the tricks of the trade by which the fake news exploits you and me and all Americans for profit. They're realizing, they're not realizing anything. They've been doing this for a while, but there's a certain critical mass that occasionally the distrust in the fake news, and because the fake news has always been fake news, regardless of the things that some misguided, very highly optimistic people may say from time to time on faux news, Fox News. Fake news has always been trailer trash America. It's always been vaudevillian infotainment. A tale, not unlike the Scarlet Letter, loosely based on true events, but spun with the skewed, perverted, rapist wit that only a fake news anchor can possibly live with him or herself, or itself, if we're going to be honest. So what's happening now? What's happening? So we're in one of those, because politics is cyclical, like everything else, and we're getting to a point where, just like in the 70s, Americans, and indeed the fake news industry itself, they're finding it hard to live with themselves these days, and that's, they always do. They always. They're in the business of pulling one over on the American people every day, day in, day out. But sometimes the level of their guilt, sometimes they're so deceptive, and they're terrorizing so many Americans that, it's dangerous for them too. And they realize, we're going to start getting raped by illegal aliens. I'm talking specifically the reason that what kind of prompted me to do this topic is a wave of fake news stories, all triggered by the AP, by the way. The AP is kind of sets the tone in a lot of respects, especially the fake news New York Times, being one of the members of the Associated Press, a lot of AP contributors at the New York Times. But they actually called Now, many of you are familiar with the concept of the rape zones. They've been calling them sanctuary cities, but they're catch and release places where and it's every major city that calls itself a sanctuary city is actually what they do is they catch the most violent criminals. And the new trend in so-called sanctuary cities, now they've always been dangerous places you never ever want to live. I go into Boston very rarely because I don't want to. I mean, I could fight them off, but I mean, it's like, who wants? It's not my America. It's not the America that I remember or like or want to live in. So, so I'm always just north of the hub of the universe because I don't want to be, because I mean, you can shoot an illegal, but then you got to go to court. It's just kind of a big hassle, and and I don't delight in killing anyone, even illegal aliens. It's just not, if I would go into the Army or the Border Patrol if I wanted to, deal with that whole problem. It's not really what I'm called to do. I respect the people who do tremendously. I think they're good people, and illegal aliens usually deserve to die because they're illegal. But anyway, these illegal aliens who have been deported a number of times are, I know, and you have been programmed. As soon as I mention, illegal alien, you've been programmed. The fake news has programmed you by this point in time. Say, Peter's just being racist, or Peter's being discriminatory, and Peter, why don't you have a heart for these poor people who have been suffering at the hands of terror? They're raping. It's not a one-time story. Ladies and gentlemen, if you live in a sanctuary city, your neighbors, maybe you're not your next door neighbor, but somebody is getting raped by an illegal alien. And even the fake news is, you figure if the fake news is reporting hundreds and hundreds of these cases in the so-called sanctuary cities, the rape zones or the murder zones, they're raping in. I think it was a 93-year-old lady just got murdered in South Carolina. That's a fake news story for you. And if the fake news is partial to these terrorists, these we'll call them misguided foreigners who sometimes you just gotta rape someone is what. And that's why we've been opening the raping shops around here, in the sanctuary cities to give them what they need to rape more effectively, to subdue their victims of rape, sell rape juices, Saltnik rape juices, and dildos or whatever. Anyway, on a serious note. Fake news is, of course, wants to foment as much discord, as much American misery as possible, because that's the only way they get viewers. If you're so at your wits' end, you're so out of it, your life is spinning so out of control from all the murder and rape around you. I was listening to a fake news story on the radio about an illegal alien in New York who had been deported previously and was robbing a string of banks. Went to court. Judge was not allowed to set bail because of sanctuary city. Sanctuary! Like Quasimodo, right? Not quite. I mean, they're ugly like Quasimodo, but their soul is even uglier than what they look like. So, I know you're just being whatever, I don't care, because what I care about is I care about my American neighbors who are being raped and murdered. I care about the elderly who are being raped. Well, probably not so much the elderly, but they're being murdered. Whatever works basically is what, it's Americans lose when the fake news wins. But again, to fixate on the problem of illegal aliens would be me not doing my job correctly, because Because I'm not here to tell you the story about how illegal aliens are raping more. And by the way, because they live in so-called sanctuary cities, etc., local law enforcement, of course, wants to turn these folks over to the feds, but they're the sanctuary, the rape zone cities, the murder zone cities, like Boston, like Los Angeles, like New York, like the Bronx, like Brooklyn. We're not allowed to. Our law enforcement, the local municipalities, and all of their fake news inspired wisdom are not allowed to turn in these rapist murderers who have already been deported. They catch and it's called catch and release, and they must by local law, they must release these convicted felons back into the community so that they can. So this gentleman was robbing banks, robbed a string of banks, went to court, was released. He robbed another bank, and he would have gone on forever, right? So the feds actually had to come and get him. The police were not allowed to hold him for the Fed. This is what the fake news wants. Again, when America wins, the fake news loses. So the fake news wants to promote this as much as possible. However, we're getting to a point where the tide of the fake news viewership is so overwhelmingly anti-fake news that where, again, this is cyclical. This is not a new thing. The fake news has always lied. I want to make that very clear. The very essence of the fake news industry is to lie to you. It's the only way they make a profit, is to have you hanging at the end of a string. Whether it's true or not, as long as they get the facts right. They get the facts right, okay? What does the facts mean? The facts means whatever the hell they want it to mean. Because they will take it out of context, they will spin it in any way possible so as to manipulate you into hating America, hating everything America stands for. Why? Because if you are a person who is obsessed or feeling guilty or feeling low, then they can swoop in and provide the solution in the form of another news story to distract you from your fake news distracted lifestyle. And now Silicon Valley is the new fake news. But the kind of the point here again, because to dwell upon the subject of their incessant fake accusations day in and day out is to let your eye get away from the ball. We want to keep our eyes on the ball here. And the real story is precisely the story the fake news doesn't want you to know about, which is the fact that it is the fake news pulling the strings behind all of these things, at the very least encouraging all of these travesties of justice, because they use the airwaves to promote violence against Americans, to promote the raping of America by illegal aliens, the robbing of banks by illegal aliens, the sodomizing of one American against another, because fake news is an inherently communist medium. They hate America, they hate themselves, and they want to share the misery. They want to spread the misery around. And I know all of you watching this, most of you who are keeping up with America's man's man, I'm not talking to the fake news. I know obviously you folks are excluded from this group, but most Americans are happy people. It's because we are Americans and we love our God, we love our country. But and a lot of you sometimes, what we can be, me included, before I started working in it, we can be a little naive. We can think, well, gee, these people can't be that bad. Why would they want to pull? People can't be that devious, but they are. I can tell you tales about hearing about Christian rock burning parties. These people love burning the flag. This is not a joke. This is, and the reason is they're tied to this anti-American terrorist agenda, because this is how your fellow Americans who work in the fake news make their money. If you're not miserable, the fake news is not making money. Anyway, we want to keep our eyes on the ball. We want to keep following the story here, the real story, which is how the fake news is perverting America, is recriminalizing all of it, is really sowing the seeds of discord and guilty of sedition, of terrorism, of evils beyond anything that we would suspect, the average Joe American would suspect them of, simply because we don't believe, we can't understand in our hearts sometimes, as Christians, as patriots, how any American would dare to be so evil. But the fake news is evil. Again, their profits rely on this. It's their survival on the line if they don't warp your mind and the minds of all your neighbors. And it's been a slow and steady process, and that's how Satan usually works. A slow and steady fade. That's how the greatest nation on earth became a nation which has enshrined sodomy in the highest levels of respect among the law. Never mind that none of us Americans actually wanted it. It was those rogue court justices, and all of them were acting under the influence, so to speak, not of marijuana, but that, of course, we know why the fake news promotes marijuana, the legalization of marijuana. No, they were acting primarily under the influence, as unfortunately otherwise better informed citizens have acted over the last century. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court was and continues to act under the evil influence of the fake news media. So what's the story here? Well, the story is simply that we're going through one of those periods of time when, just like during the 70s, Americans are increasingly awakening, thanks largely to americasmansman.com, to the evils of the fake news media, and so we've had, at this point in time, you'll notice that the fake news might be just slightly, not very much, but ever so slightly more truthful than they normally are. For instance, in this one city I think it was about the bank robber who was caught and released, they actually called the so-called sanctuary city, where this illegal alien was caught. They actually called it a so-called sanctuary city, meaning the AP story, the Associated Press story, and the Associated Press is one of the most communist, most anti-American organizations that exist. Again, because their interests are the profit interests of the fake news industry, and they represent the fake news industry. So they're here to warp your mind, the Associated Press. But at this moment in time, they called it a so-called sanctuary city. Whereas, of course, the fake news normally, they just call it a sanctuary city, like to make it sound like something that's actually intended to protect in an almost quasi-religious sense, like the evil Nancy Pelosi. They try to make it sound like they're doing something charitable or humanitarian, a sanctuary. They're granting sanctuary and amnesty to the downtrodden. The downtrodden anti-American rapists and murderers who come to this country after repeat offenses and are convicted felons. Those illegal aliens. You're going to notice the fake news being just a little bit more truthful. And you'll notice there's always just a little bit of truth mixed in. It's like, we're so sorry. Billy Graham had touched so many lives. And how could the fake news possibly hate America? Writing such a brilliant, such a well thought out, flowery eulogy to the great Reverend Billy Graham. Don't be deceived, folks. Don't be deceived. There's always going to be, in their normal cocktail stew of communism and anti-American evil, there's always going to be just that grain of truth, because even the fake news anchors know that if they're not just a little bit truthful, then you wouldn't be duped. But that's exactly the purpose. And trust me, as a former fake news anchor, they are absolutely out to deceive you. It is as bad as I am saying. I say this with zero fear of error. I used to work in it, and I am here to lead you out from the evil, malicious, malignant malfeasance of the evil fake news media. This is America's Man's Man. Be sure to subscribe at americasmansman.com. The bar is in the top of the screen, so put your email address there and click subscribe because if you're watching this somewhere else, like the evil FANG company Google, they're going to destroy this channel. It's only a matter of time, so make sure that when that happens, you're still getting the videos that you depend upon to navigate your fake news and FANG Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, Netflix, that axis of evil, the modern axis of media evil in America, the fake news, and the FANG companies of Silicon Valley. Make sure you keep getting the episodes of americasmansman.com that you depend upon. The only way to do that going forward, because Google is going to axe this channel, you mark my words, it's happening. It's happening. They've already threatened to do it, and they're going to do it any day. They could do it before you end this video, before you're done watching this episode right now. So go on over there right now. Just take a couple moments of your time right now. It doesn't cost you anything. You're going to get my free gift emailed to you as a thanks for being an adequately informed citizen of the United States, of the Republic. Head on over to americasmansman.com right now. Put your email address in the little bar at the top of the screen and click subscribe so that you, my friend, are not left in the dark. And there's our little visual there.